I wanted to begin with the discovery, one of the most amazing discoveries in human history, and that is that we all come from a very tiny seed point of elementary particles. So the universe as a whole is moving somewhere, it's evolving. And this means everything inside the universe is evolving. This discovery really changes or deepens our understanding of humanity. From the perspective of this cosmic evolution, humanity occupies what can be called the third level of evolution. In the first, the universe put together the large structures of galaxies and stars. In the second, evolution focused on the anatomies and physiologies of animals and plants, enabling life to go all around the surface of the earth. And then we come to the third level, the human level. Now the evolution takes place without changing the anatomy or physiology. We're really changing the human mentality. And this has been going on from the beginning of humanity. So it's the point here is that human mentality is something that humans are bringing forth into a new form. For instance, 100,000 years ago, humans began journeying down into caves. They weren't going for food or to find sexual mates. They were drawn into the cave in order to explore an amazing new possibility. The power of evoking a memory of a past event. So the experience of seeing a mammoth is captured using these strange new things, symbols. And now because of that work, all of humans take conscious recall as an ordinary experience, but it wasn't. It had to be developed and brought forth. Something similar happened with Zarathustra in the second millennium before the Common Era. It was Zarathustra that first began to refer to himself as an I. Before that, all of the poetry was understood to come from the gods. But Zarathustra wrote, "It is I, Zarathustra, who is saying this." And then but not only did he have this breakthrough in human mentality, he also developed a method whereby others could join in an enhanced feeling of conscious self-awareness. So this evolution of human mentality continues. The question today is, are we all engaged, either knowingly or unknowingly? Are we all engaged in a process that is transforming our individuated consciousness into a collective consciousness, into a noospheric consciousness? To take us into this question, I introduce to you Dr. Abre Fournier, whose work addresses the conscious transformation of mind from the personal to the planetary. Dr. Fournier.
Thank you, Dr. Brian Swimme. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. And special thanks to Human Energy and the beautiful UM6P and the Institute for Advanced Studies for organizing this conference. It's wonderful to be here in Morocco with you all and all the presenters. In this talk, I introduce two transformative concepts, the Metamind and the Metaself. The Metamind, I propose, is the emergence of the conscious or awake dimension of the noosphere, a profound transformation in human consciousness, opening a new era of conscious, awakened, interconnected existence. The Metaself, meta, Greek prefix meaning beyond or after, self-consciousness or self-identity, the individuated form of the collective metamind. So the meta-self goes beyond the restricted, narrow lens through which this human organism knows itself. The meta-self is an evolved self past its conventional boundaries. It is the lens opening wide to a more integrative and inclusive awareness, which is the awareness of the noosphere. This arises through conscious practices, behaviors, guiding, enhancing the evolution of both the individual and the noosphere. And the noosphere defined here as the collective realm of human thought, knowledge, culture, and technology. The metamind, the emergence of the conscious or awake dimension of the noosphere, is a global distributed intelligence, planetary intelligence, awakening to itself as a coherent, self-sustaining system, akin to an organism. So we'll examine the recursive dynamic by which the metamind emerges, not as an aggregate, not as a group of individual metaselves, but as an entity with its own global awareness and creative evolution, again, similar to an organism. And the double arrow, gray arrow here, recursive, a term I will use, here conveys a process of mutual, iterative exchange between the self and the noosphere, where each influences and modifies the other in an ongoing, evolving cycle with its own variations. We begin with the self, from basic body level cognition to higher order thinking and self-reflection or self-consciousness. The human capacity to introspect and form a coherent sense of identity, what we are, what we take ourselves to be, that which distinguishes us from other animals. So consider the trillions of cells in our body working together to create the self that we identify with, shaped by billions of years of evolution. And from cells to entire organisms, all biological systems can be said to exhibit a form of self, constructing and organizing themselves and linking physical structures with cognitive processes. That's the noosphere. We can think of the self as an integrated system of nested structures or nested selves. Some aspects are accessible, while others remain below the threshold of conscious awareness. And here we focus on the higher order self, the subjective dimension of self that reflects on itself. So some reference for further exploration on this approach to the self, for something to come back to. Self-identity and the importance of symbolic systems. Through evolution, as you've heard here already, symbolic thought arose, fundamental to self-reflective awareness and our self-identity. Symbolic system, the complex network of signs, symbols, and language, what enables us to form mental representations of ourselves, others, the world, an ability that shapes our experience and allows us to construct narratives. So imagine each day thousands of self-referential thoughts. We continuously create and recreate our narrative self and create our shared culture. And how does our conscious sense of self-identity emerges? Key ideas highlight how boundaries between self and world emerge during early development and help us understand their dynamic co-emergence. Jean Piaget, object permanence. The understanding that objects continue to exist even when unseen, occurring around 3 to 4 months when infants begin to perceive a world of objects that also includes an emergent sense of self, or me. Donald Winnicott's object relations theory, highlighting the me, not me, when infants initially experience the world as undifferentiated, just experiencing. And from the teddy bear, the blanket in the mouth, one moment being me, one moment being not me, a state of confusion, and gradually, with the caregiver support, learning to differentiate. Mirror recognition, another key milestone typically occurring around 18 months. Children recognize themselves in a mirror, forming a fuller awareness of their embodied self. And through these processes, children develop a sense of agency. I am the agent, distinct from the world. Not exactly in those words. This matures into a robust I-me-mind complex, with most modern adults perceiving, assuming a clear separation between self and world. And some of this will have to be deconditioned to a certain extent. A few more references one can go back to. And transitioning now from self to Metaself. Here we explore the self or selfing evolving as a meta-conscious system, a process co-evolving with the noosphere in a recursive feedback loop exchange. And I'll say more about that again later. So first, globally, we are witnessing an accelerating transformation, the rise of self-evolving minds participating in the evolution of consciousness toward the Metaself. This transformation is fueled by conscious practices, expanded self-transformation efforts and participation, and greatly amplified by global connectivity and technological advancement. So deeply integrated in our lives that technology becomes an extension of the self. At the personal level, this shift to the Metaself broadens our perspective beyond the confines of individualistic desires, encompassing extended collective frameworks. This broader awareness connects us to larger context, humanity, nature, and the universe, enabling a more integrative and holistic way of perceiving and engaging with the world. The Metaself represents an awakening to the consciousness of the noosphere, which collectively right now is still under the threshold experientially of the everyday conscious mind. How do we approach this transformation of mind? We have several pathways. Mind training to enhance metacognitive awareness in multiple forms. Engagement with innovative cognitive frameworks. Psychedelics for transformative cognitive exploration, not for everybody. Technological augmentation. Cultural transformations of the social selves. And a lot more to say about this. There's a whole curriculum here with a lot of evidence. These pathways transcend narrow, conditioned boundaries of mind that constrain the self. So moving beyond these structures allows us to access a higher order dimension and expanded awareness that reconnects to a sense of wholeness, lost through the separation between self and world. Remember our infant. And transitioning from Metaself to Metamind. From Metaself to Metamind, here we explore their dynamic co-emergence and how they shape each other through their connection. And I will focus here on just a couple of key points, still grounded in science, to start framing this perspective. Carl Friston asserts the agent does not have a model of its world. It is a model, meaning the brain does not hold a static internal representation of the world, but actively generates its form and structures, and this goes beyond classical cognitive science of the 20th century. It also highlights that the self is not fixed, but an emergent, dynamic process shaped by continuous real-time sensory and environmental interactions. 4E cognition, embodied cognition, this aligns with 4E cognition, viewing the mind as not just in the brain, but a mind that is embodied, embedded, inactive, and extended, meaning shaped by body, by environment, by actions, and the technologies we use. So through this framework, self and world co-construct each other through recursive feedback loops, transforming both consciousness and world. And building on Freestone's notion that the agent is a model of its environment, the environment in turn models the meta-self, creating a dynamic of reciprocal constitution. And in this recursive interplay, the metamind arises not, again, as a mere aggregation of individual meta-selves, but as an entity with its own emergent, reflexive awareness and capacity for creative evolution. As such, the metamind is the emergence of a global, distributed intelligence awakening to itself, representing a higher order of noospheric consciousness. The noosphere has evolved. This is another evolutionary step. And again, a few references for further exploration, ideas that intersect across this territory. And we now turn to the awake, aware, noosphere entity, the metamind. Morten Christiansen describes language as an organism. Thank you. A view expanded by Robert Logan to include culture, technology, and science as evolving, self-regulating entities akin to organism. And Logan, drawing on Dr. Deacon's concept of teleodynamics, a process that describes living systems, states, language, culture, technology, and science self-regulate, self-reproduce, self-correct, and self-maintain. All this speaks of a living organism. And if we accept this perspective, and I propose substituting science with knowledge, much more encompassing, we have here the formation of a higher level organism, the noosphere. This living system evolves autonomously while still maintaining a symbiotic relationship with its human host, a dependence since its existence relies on human cognition and social activities. And this opens the way to the metamind, the evolution of the noosphere into a more conscious, more integrated global intelligence. And finally, Freestone describes a continuous exchange between internal and external states of living systems, with little distinctions between their directions, reinforcing a holistic view from cells to culture, in which we grounded the self going all the way down to the cellular level, all the way up to cultures. Building on this, I propose applying the powerful symmetry and circular causality to the relationship between self and world, where sensations flow inward and actions flow outward, dynamically and at all levels. As Freestone notes, this symmetry can be understood purely theoretically, where the structure of this exchange, mathematically, can be completely transposed and nothing changes. So this sounds all like science and mathematics, but here is the insight that goes just beyond mere conceptualizations, captures in Freestone's words, which means your action upon the world becomes the world's way of perceiving you, and the world acts upon you through your perception of the world, right? So the world looking at itself through our own eyes. And I found much depth into this, exemplifying what we're really talking about here with the noosphere. Thus, the individuated Metaself and the collective Metamind co-construct each other through mutual feedback. Each Metaself enhances the Metamind's global awareness and organization, which in turn continuously reshapes, enhances individual Metaselves. This co-evolution transcends traditional dualistic paradigms, integrating self and world into a continuum of mutual interdependence. And I would like to conclude with this statement, which captures the essence of the Metamind. The awakening as the Metamind marks the moment when distributed intelligence recognizes itself as a coherent, self-sustaining system, capable of guiding us in unprecedented ways. This transformation redefines how we think, act, and exist, positioning humanity on the threshold of a new era of awakened, interconnected existence. The culminating insight of the Metamind is both personal and planetary. Thank you.